Welcome into the Backroads Bill podcast. I'm Ben, and today our guest is a man who traveled from Quebec all the way to Alaska, which doesn't sound that incredibly impressive, except for the fact when you realize that he biked the whole way. He's biked all the way there and back, thousands upon thousands upon thousands upon thousands of kilometers in what he then dubbed the Crazy Tour. And he's actually just about to embark on another crazy tour out into the Atlantic from Quebec all the way through the Maritimes and back again this year. And just in about a month or so, he'll be on his way. When this releases, I think it'll even be a couple of weeks. So it's right on the cusp of that. The name of his book. This is also a man, by the way, who's completed a number upon number of marathons and triathlons, has even biked his way to the triathlon before he's actually done it. He is absolutely insane, and the name of his book is called Always Winning, which, by the way, the link for that will be in the description. It's only available on his website. And again, you can check the description if you want to grab yourself a copy. Once we get into this conversation, you'll understand exactly why it is the perfect title. I've never met a man who is more happy, loving life, and very infectious in the way he does it. He does public speaking, and again, just a very awesome and almost nomadic way of life when he does these tours. It's really, really fascinating. So all of that on the way, but first, a word from today's lead sponsor, North Bay Toyota. Get in and go at North Bay Toyota. From the bold and adventurous RAV4 to the fuel-efficient and stylish Corolla Cross to the powerful and rugged Tacoma, there's a Toyota for everyone. Need extra space for the family? The Highlander, Grand Highlander, and Sienna. Want to go green? Check out Toyota's complete lineup of hybrid vehicles like the Prius, Camry, Crown, all-new Crown Signia, and more. Get in and go at North Bay Toyota. Visit them at 640 McEwen North Bay or toyota.com for details. So this week we are excited to have on the podcast, I'm going to bring out my inner French here, Pierre Beauregard.
Ben, you did so well with that.
Close?
Pierre, welcome to the Backroads Bill podcast, and that's the biggest slip that'll be on today's episode, that's for sure. But it's good to have Pierre with us. But did you have a story about pronunciation? Because often we have people with so many interesting surnames, Ben, that... But did you have something to say about that?
Oh, yeah. So I do, last year I did play-by-play, right, for the Great North U18 League, for mostly for the North Bay Trappers for a few games. So one of the games we played Kapuskasing.
Right.
And for anybody who knows Kapuskasing, it's very French.
It's Kapuskasing.
Is that how you say it?
No.
Oh, okay.
It's Kapuskasing.
So it's very French. And so they don't give us pronunciation guides or anything, right? Mm-hmm. So every single person on that team, because they're all local, it's like U18, AAA, is super French names. And, we have a pretty big French community here. So you kind of know a lot of the classic or common names. And there were some that I'm like, I have no idea how to pronounce them. So I'm trying to figure out, I'm on howtopronounce.com, trying to figure out how to pronounce these things and trying to hear what they're saying. I think I got most of them, but I'm pretty sure their parents were listening to this going, oh my God, what is going on?
Because you're the producer of the Backroads Bill podcast, you do a great job about doing that phonetically. And Pierre, welcome to the podcast. And, this week we're glad to have you on because you've done more than 70 long-distance challenges, and we're going to talk about the first crazy tour through Northern Ontario. It wasn't just Northern Ontario, but welcome. And the first question is, and of course you live in the Eastern Townships, just east, about 80 kilometers east of Montreal, and a good place to, I think, ride your bike from. But tell us how you got started in these long-distance challenges.
Thank you so much for the invitation, Bill and Ben. I'm excited to be here. It started in 2006, the first long-distance challenge that I entered. A sequence of events led me to that first one in 2006, and I was 35 at the time. And when I finished, not when I finished, but when I did that long-distance challenge, I felt something very powerful, very energetic inside of me, very positive. And at the end of the challenge, the only thing I wanted to do is to go back to the starting line, of that morning. It was a very long. It was an inline skating challenge, 128 kilometers,
Wow.
going around the island of Montreal, following the water, and I really wanted to go back to that starting line that morning, and from there, another sequence of event led me to enter 3 to 5 long distance challenges every year since 2006. And that led me to 70 now. And it became sort of a way to mark my years. So I have this challenge that I repeated for so many years, and then that challenge came in and repeated for so many years. The smallest of those 70 being a marathon. So that's the smallest. There are 14 of those that are a marathon. Everything else is bigger than a marathon. So we're talking about Ironman, full ultra marathons, Canadian ski marathons, and it changed my life literally from 2006.
Yeah, we're going to take about this life-changing experiences, that's for sure. Because again, another one, the interesting one for the viewers and the listeners, I think you've been to the Lake Placid Ironman 13 times, but people need to realize that you ride your bike from Granby down to the starting point, and this was not recognized for a number of years, I guess, until you had your 9th Lake Placid Ironman. And so tell us a little bit about that and why. And of course, you're all about bicycle transportation. And I just heard there was a guy on this morning in Sudbury, wanting to have more bike shelters and more bike racks. And bicycling is a great, and of course we live in this vast and magnificent land, and it's a big place. So it's not like many cities in Europe or, downtown Toronto or Montreal or Vancouver, where there's lots and lots of bike lanes. So, but tell us about biking down to Lake Placid and how that all started.
I made a conscious decision one point in my life not to own a car. So that's a conscious decision that I made. And from there, I had to transport myself to wherever I want to go by my own means. So public transit, hitchhiking. I'm a hitchhiker. Biking, walking, cross country ski sometimes. And when I entered my first my first Ironman distance triathlon, it was in Lake Placid, which is really close to Montreal, about 200 kilometers. And I had this idea to bike to it. And I didn't tell anyone at that point because it seemed a bit weird, even for me, to bike to an Ironman. But I enjoyed that week. I left like 5 days before the Ironman. I took 2 days to get there. And I had made some friends over there when I went to practice the course once or twice. And so the first year I carried my camping equipment with me, and I camped on the lawn of some people that I got to know there. And I enjoyed that week so much that from 2010, my first Ironman was in 2010, I repeated that every year. And something at my first Ironman, something triggered me to have this crazy plan of doing one Ironman each year for the next 40 years. So back in 2010, I was 39. The oldest participant was 79. And so 70 being close to 80, 39 being close to 40.
Yeah, we've got the math down. Yep.
And so I decided to do one Ironman every year in Lake Placid. And I decided to bike there. And people were saying, nobody does that. Like, nobody bikes to an Ironman. So I got invited. That led me to be invited to my 9th one because they couldn't believe that I was doing that.
Yeah, that's an incredible story. At the Canadian Equality Center, during its evolution, I came up with this MADE principle. In English, it's MADA. So in your lifetime, you want to say to yourself, I made a difference. And this environmentally conscious decision of being, biking, walking, hitchhiking, and that's commendable. I mean, in our lifetime, we're all environmentally conscious people, but to do that kind of thing, we don't have to say it's really extreme, but you lead your life that way. And of course, that has led you to some, I think, Ben, extreme ideas, because then you came up with the idea about the first Crazy Tour. And tell us how that evolved.
That's how I got to meet you, Bill. So that's one of the outcome of that first crazy tour. Uh, I became a speaker in 2017 with, we'll talk a little bit about the topic of that later, but when I became a speaker, when I did my talks, I was always checking with people in the room if they were coming from far away, and I was asking them, invite me, and uh, that will trigger my first tour, my first speaking engagement tour, and I will bike to your place and I will do speaking. That invitation never came. So in 2022, the organization of the Ironman created Ironman Alaska. And in my head, something happened, and I said, "Well, let's bike to Alaska to do my 15th Ironman." And when you look at the map, it's very interesting because from the border of south of Montreal to Lake Placid, it's very short. But if you look at the border from British Columbia to Juneau, where the Ironman is taking place, it's the same distance. So I said, it's the same. I'm leaving my country to do an Ironman. It's the same distance. There's only 6,000 kilometers more between my place and the Frontier office there. So I'll just leave earlier. And that triggered my first speaking engagement tour. And that's how I got to meet you. So 30 speaking engagement during that.
Yes, and you did speak at the Ecology Center and in North Bay. And Ben, you know, that's a little different than you or I just going to the store to get our groceries on the bike or walking back and forth. But so well, we take the 6,000 kilometers. That's a lot of trip back and forth from the grocery store.
Well, I was going to say, Pierre, like, how are your knees still not absolutely disintegrated when you think about how much you're traveling and everything? It just, and especially as you get older, the one thing is your body starts to break down, and like it's nothing you can control, and it happens to everybody. But that's the first thing I'm like, how
it does happen, Ben. Mine's broken.
Yeah, how are you still able to do that?
I'm very happy that I've bumped into that condition of mine. My cartilage or my articulation, they're hyperlax. So I very early in my life, I decided to ditch all the sports that have impact. So downhill ski, jogging, running is out of the equation. So I'm performing 5 sports. I'm exercising 5 sports that are low impact, no impact. So inline skating, walking, swimming, biking is there, and cross country ski. So that's why my cartilage and my articulation are holding. And the piece of my body that's deteriorating really, really fast is my left thumb. For some reason, I don't know. This is the part of my body that's going down.
Is that an important thing for cycling?
Well, the position on the bike is kind of gets very uncomfortable. I think I got that from my first crazy tour. Those 12,000, because 6,000 kilometers is only to get there. So it was a round trip. So it became a 12,000 kilometer bike ride.
Pierre, I should have listened to you about the deteriorating body, but you know that I'm really glad you listed the 5 impact sports, and of course now. You know, I'm not 23 anymore, and I've exercised my whole life and competed. But yeah, I now in this later stages of life, that's what I've concentrated on, the low impact ones, and that will extend. I think my good fortune of wanting to do the things I want to do, and I just, you know, again, I had to transition from a bike to the trike, but that was important. So I still can do the things I want to do, and it's all about, because the tendons and ligaments do disintegrate. And you probably learned a lot from Roger Couture at Laurentian University. I mean, he's well known, you know, as a guru in outdoor education. Tell us a little bit about him, because then we're going to get back to Northern Ontario. But since we're talking about physiology, we might as well just bring in Roger.
Yeah, Roger is one of my 2 mentors. One is the other one is André-François Bourbeau in Chicoutimi, and these 2 guys are very important in their program, their outdoor studies programs in Chicoutimi and in Sudbury. And I owe to Roger, I owe him the discovery of Ontario, and you know, to open my horizon, I don't know how to say it in English there, to open my
Like horizons, your
Yeah, your
mind.
horizons. Yeah, you got
horizons
it. You
would be
got
the
it.
right word. Yeah,
Yeah,
like a
absolutely.
mental horizons. Yeah, because when he came to Sudbury on a sabbatical year as a teacher, as a university teacher, and they have a caseload when they do a sabbatical, and one of his objective was to put on an exchange, a student exchange between Chicoutimi and Sudbury, and I was happily on my third year. So I met him on my first year. On my third year, I benefited. I benefited.
Benefited, that's close enough. Yeah.
Benefited from that exchange, and I went 6 months in Sudbury, and I discovered Northern Ontario, discovered the Francophone communities outside of Quebec. That really opened my horizons a lot. And Saint Jean Baptiste on the June 24th is not the Quebec celebration, is a French Canadian celebration, and that I discovered that in Sudbury. So I owe him that, and I owe him all that, all what comes from an exchange like that. So many uh, knowledges from Sudbury University with Jim Little and Stephen Ritchie and Roger Couture as teachers. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's it's good that you brought this up, because in this day and age, of course, with the 51st state and the Gulf of America and things, we're learning more and more about our country. In fact, when I drove in for this podcast, it's on the CBC right now. It's the 10 places you should visit in Canada, and it's actually the finale of it, and Rick Mercer is on. But we're going to get back to that first crazy tour. And tell us about, of course, you did come to the Canadian Ecology Center, and your contact came in a kind of roundabout way as well, but you ended up at our doorstep. And tell us a little bit about that before we go through the rest. Because when you come to Mattawa, and that, that imaginary border of Northern Ontario between the Mattawa River, Lake Nipissing, French River to Georgian Bay, everything beyond in latitude from about 46, 47 degrees north is considered Northern Ontario.
You know what I'm going to tell you? You already know that. But when we leave from Montreal or Granby, or in that vicinity, and we want to get to Vancouver or the western part of Canada, Ontario makes it for half of that distance.
Yes.
Ontario is a continent in itself. It's crazy. It's really crazy. So getting to your doorstep in Mattawa was great, because that speaking engagement I did around the fire on the Friday evening triggered me to meet people in North Bay, and I got made contact with Marcus Schwabe in Sudbury, and the Radio Canada interviewer too, and from there, that interview was heard further, and I made speaking engagement further. And I went the way of Highway 11 on the north, and to my surprise, it was flat. The Highway 11 on the north is very flat, so that was a big surprise for me.
Well, because you go through the Little Clay Belt, then to the Great Clay Belt, and basically you get north of Temiskaming Shores from Cochrane, Kapuskasing and Hearst, right over to Long Lac. You are before the James Bay, Hudson Bay lowlands, and so you are on that part of the Canadian Shield that is entirely flat. And but it was good. Tell us about some of the speaking engagements and the community you encountered, because again, along that northern route, a very, very high density of Francophone communities.
And as a matter of fact, I did a speaking engagement in Val-Rita in French. I did 2 in North Bay North Bay was in English, Sudbury was in French, Chapleau was in French, Wawa was in French as well, and Wawa and Chapleau were on my return, as well as North Bay. And I also did one speaking engagement in Val-Rita also. It was with the evacuees of the First Nation of Cachet-Chilwan, I think. That was very touching. That was very, very touching. I happen to have a friend who's Anishinaabe in Temiskaming, and I went to do two speaking engagement there. I think it was just prior or just after the Wawa one, the one at the CEC, and he made me a smudge. He kind of blessed my tour with a smudge, and I had a second smudge in Valrita with the Kashechewan community. So that was very touching. And then Long Lac was my other talk, and a bunch of house presentations as well, because when I'm biking, you can't. Well, that's the way I'm traveling. I'm not planning every night where I'm going to sleep. So I bike, and then when it gets dawn, then I look for a spot to pitch my tent. And I met so many people. I feel that when you're biking or walking, it's easy to get in touch with people and say, "Can I pitch my tent on your lawn?" And things happen when you do that. I get invited inside and I offer my talk. So these were house presentations. That was great. Another thing that I discovered about Northern Ontario is that on my return, I was told by a person that the elevation gain on north of Lake Superior, because I came down along Lake Superior, the elevation gain along Lake Superior was as big as the Rockies. And I said, that can't be it. We're on the Canadian Shield, just small hills. But I looked at my watch, and the elevation gain was as high as Rogers Pass at the end of the day. It was a complete surprise for me too.
Very interesting statistic. Now, I've biked back from White River back this way towards North Bay, so I know that very, very well. That was a long time ago in a faraway land, but that was an epic adventure to get to the triathlon, and just imagine, Ben, remember the North Bay to Mattawa canoe race and things. We're going to bring that. It's going to come up in some other adventures coming up in the other podcasts. But just as a note today, as we record this, Pierre, Kashechewan and Fort Albany have been evacuated for their spring breakup. So that's ongoing as we speak, and so that's something that they don't look forward to, but happens.
What is that? I have no idea what that is.
What, the breakup? The rivers that they're on that flow into to Hudson Bay or James Bay. The ice just broke up on the Moose River, Moosonee. I just saw some video of that. So they get ice jams and the banks overflow, and because of where the homes are situated, there's chance of flooding, and of course they're cut off, and so they evacuate them to places. I think the people in Cache are in Cochrane, and places like Hearst, Kapuskasing, they are the go-to places. So
Valrita also. The French word for that, I think, is débâcle. I don't know if there's an English word for that. The spring débâcle,
we call it the spring freshet or breakup. Yeah. So anyway, Northern Ontario was, then when you get to the prairies, it's flatter, and then you're headed in a kind of northwesterly direction, and you do that, and you have to come back, and you come back into Ontario. But before that, though, Pierre, tell us about the book, and this is an opportunity to show us the book and tell us how that book evolved. And of course, it's an important tool for you when you do your presentations.
Yeah. Thanks for allowing me to mention that. So my book is called The Joyful Approach to Challenges, Always Winning. And from 2006, when I did my first long distance challenge, I got this question on a recurrent basis. I got this question asked to me many times, and that's how my book starts. How come you're still having fun? Because we're all busted here, we're all broken, and yet again you're there cheering and having fun in the same. Did you start at 7 a.m. like with us, or you just entered the race? And I got this question or a variation of that question many times, and over the course of 10 years, between 2006 and 2016, I got to wonder, what am I doing differently? And I asked friends and family, everybody does this like that. And my friends and family said, no, Pierre, you're the only one doing that way. And so I started to put words into that, look around me and the reaction I was creating during those races. And I put that into words and made the first presentations in front of friends and family. And the fun thing is that at the beginning I said, I'd like you to stay after this talk and convince me to quit this crazy idea to become a speaker and share this. And so at the end of that first hour, they said, it's everybody agreed in the room. It's way too good for us to break you from sharing that. But Pierre, it's not only about sports, it's about all life's challenges. So it came back into my life like if I had not written that book or if I had not created it came back like through the back door in my own life, and it affected all my life with this joyful approach to challenging, always winning. And since 2017, I offer my talks to whoever wants to receive me, and the impact is very strong.
So today's episode is all about perseverance. It's all about the joy of life and getting to do what you love to do, like Pierre has done, and we've seen him done throughout this episode. And that really ties well into one of today's sponsors and the partnership that Echo and the Backroads Bill podcast has with the North Bay Regional Health Center Foundation. Through their I Give Monthly Club, you can make a monthly donation, no matter how big or how small it is, to our local hospital right here in North Bay. And it makes sure that the hospital has the tools that it needs to continue to give the exceptional care for, your friends and loved ones. Everybody gets is affected by how our hospital works at some point in their life, and unfortunately, almost everyone has been impacted in some way. And when it comes to serious illness or medical care, these donations allow the purchasing of things like MRI machines, life-saving cancer care. And so we are proud here at the Echo Network to help get this message out, to help promote their message, and continue to support our local hospital. And again, signing up for this is super incredibly easy. All you have to do is go to nbrhcfoundation.ca. Again, that is nbrhcfoundation.ca. And the thing too is, like, with your donation, obviously, not everybody's in the same financial situation. No matter how big or how small that donation is, over time, it adds up into something that is truly powerful and changing, and you can drastically affect and impact the healthcare that the hospital is able to give. So incredibly important. Thank you so much again for the foundation for supporting Echo. And again, we're very proud to help get their message out there. So again, visit nbrhcfoundation.ca and join the I Give Monthly Club today.
Hey North Bay, it's time to celebrate. The city is turning 100, and Homewood Suites by Hilton North Bay invites you to the party. Be at home in our spacious suites, each featuring a kitchen. Yeah, a real kitchen. Also, enjoy our comfy living spaces and brand new fitness gear so you can keep feeling great while staying on budget. Planning a big bash or business event? We've got the perfect meeting spaces right here on site. Plus, with our partnerships at The Grand and Stock Transportation, your guests and delegates are in great hands. Want to know the best part? We're right beside the beautiful Cape Paceway, steps to North Bay's lively waterfront, and moments from downtown's shopping, dining, and entertainment. Celebrate the Centennial with us all year long with an exclusive discount. Just use the code CENTENNIAL when booking your stay. Be at home with Homewood Suites by Hilton North Bay. Join the party today at 495 Oak Street West or call us at 705-495-3000.
What are your basic messages in the speaking engagements? Because obviously the message is you live your life by that, and of course the challenges that you take on are based on that. But what are some of the messages for particularly young people?
It really applies to everyone. It doesn't have to be. It's not age related, and it's if you follow, there are 6 elements. I broke it down to 6. At one point it was 10 or 11, and then I made some reunions. And so if you follow the 6 elements of the joyful approach I propose to you, you will always be winning. No matter how the challenge you're undertaking, you're facing will evolve or will be evolving, will be this. You will always be winning whenever how no matter how the challenge you're facing is going to evolve.
What do you think about when you're in Canada, in we'll call it developed Canada, along Highway 11 particularly? What do you think about in those 6 parts when you're going from, say, Hearst to Long Lac for about 200 kilometers and there's nothing?
For me, I'm sure you will relate to that, Bill. Being on my bicycle is being alive. And so when I'm on my bicycle, I'm happy. And so it goes to the point of meditation. So for me in my life, if I could only be biking every day, I would do it for the rest of my life.
You see, I get that right away. It's not like we in a car, right? We don't think that. I don't think we think that way. Although I just did this marathon trip, the longest winter ice road in the world, all the way up to Pewanak through Fort Severn and back. More than 6,000 kilometers in about 7 days. So I can get that. Or being in the canoe.
No.
Being on the bike?
Yes.
Yes, those kinds of things. But Ben, I know you've got some questions.
Of course. The one question I had, which we kind of already talked a little bit about, was just because you're such a upbeat person and you're always happy.
Yeah,
and
very much so.
Nobody's
Yeah.
ever always happy. So when you're going through something, let's say you're very tired, right? Or you're going through, I don't know, you've just biked like 8 hours or however it usually goes. How do you keep motivated to keep doing it? Because there has to be points, because we're all human. There has to be points where you go, what am I doing?
It's a good question, Ben. And in each one of my challenges, those 70 challenges that I've entered, in each one of them, there is a moment where I'm wondering, what the hell am I doing here? It happens in each one of them. And the answer to that will be a little bit maybe weird. I decided to enter those challenges and I happily did so. And I feel alive when I'm doing those challenges, and it can also apply to any challenges of life, like preparing something or preparing any project that you have. It doesn't have to be related to sports, but I'm choosing to enter those challenges, and I'm happy to do it. And I'm proud of myself on the starting line, which is one of the elements of the joyful approach. And then the challenge itself starts and I launch into it. And when I get to that point where I'm wondering, what the hell am I doing here? The answer will be weird, because I'm looking into my nutrition, and sometimes, most of the time, what's missing is salt. Because my brain, and I think human brains works that way, is that if you're lacking salt in your brain, the electricity goes wrong and you're looking at things in a dark way. You're start depressing. It's as weird as it may sound, and I still have to challenge that to a health specialist. But I take a little portion of salt, and my brain goes back. I usually take salt every hour in any of my challenges.
How do you take it? Is it like a liquid IV, or is it just like do you just eat salt?
Yeah, well, very simply, when I did the Sand Marathon, that race in 2012, the race that's on the picture there, it's a 1 week race in the desert of Morocco, and when you get there, they give you a little Ziploc bag with 120 salt tablets, 500 milligrams, and I was not aware of that, and that was the first time that I tried that, and it worked. So ever since then, I take more salt during my races, and I tried table salt. So I carry a little container of table salt every hour. I take a little bit.
Ben, I'm always glad to show up for the Backroads Bill podcast because now we've had it right here. But if further to training, though, tell us. I know you always say you don't train, but tell us about how you do train, going back and forth every week.
Well, I'm the only time I use the word training is to say that I'm never training. And I told you earlier in this exchange that I don't have a car. That's a conscious decision, and so I have to move myself by my own means. And bicycle is very often the answer. My girlfriend lives in Montreal, 80 kilometers door to door, and I go see her 8 months a year, at least once a week. And there's a pool right by my about a kilometer away from my place. So this winter I went to the pool 3, 4, 5 times a week. There's a cross country ski little track not too far from here, and I'm looking for excuses to go outside. I'm looking for excuses. So for an example, I go see my girlfriend. So I'm not training. I'm just going to see my girlfriend. When I go to the pool, this falls into my social section of my life. So I go to the pool 3, 4, 5 times with friends. We're laughing on the pool side at the end of the lane, and then we throw a sequence, a series, and we do the series. We do it seriously. We're tired at the end of it, but I'm not training. It's a social part of my life. I'm having fun with them there. So yeah.
Having fun with training, that's another that is so interesting in a way, because when people go for workouts, whatever it is, you have to incorporate that fun. It cannot be drudgery. And at the same time, the other part I really like is going outside for what I always talk about, vitamin N for nature. And I firmly believe in my healing process and my mental health that I need to have that all the time. And that's the clock in my life. That's how it continues to tick that way. So that's important. Ben.
Okay, so Pierre, I know that you've done a lot in your life. What is the one thing, regardless of if you can do it or not, what is the one thing that you would love to do? Now, and the reason I go here is because I think of the classic Tour de France, right?
Yeah, sure.
That kind of cycling competition, which is the creme of the creme. Is doing something like that, would that be like an aspiration or a dream for you?
The answer is quite simple there too. You're mentioning Tour de France. The Tour de France, si on le dit en français. So you're mentioning Tour de France. Tour de France or the Olympics or the elites races. I don't aim at those at all. It's not. I'm not eager. I don't want to go to those races, and I don't feel. Well, that might sound a little bit weird, but I don't feel that they are. What's a balance? I don't feel that when you go to those events, you're being in a balanced way of life. Your life is unbalanced. You're pushing everything way too far out of the limits of range. And I think this might sound a little bit weird, because when you do Ironman triathlons or when you cross Canada on your bicycle, you might be thinking that you're going out of the range and you're in an unbalanced way of life. But when you have only one thing to do in your day, and it's biking. So out of my 7.5 months of my crazy tour, I didn't bike every day. I biked maybe half of those days, and I did 100 kilometers on those days. And when you have only 100 kilometers to bike on a day, it's doable, and you're not breaking your body.
No, you're not. I know that for a fact. And Ben will add the websites and things. But tell us about the second crazy tour coming up.
Yeah. So when I had the idea to go to Alaska on my bicycle, there was a little discussion in my head that happened really, really quickly. So I had this idea. Oh, I'll bike to Alaska, and then that little voice came in my head. Okay, so let's call it the crazy tour, but let's make it not only one crazy tour. Let's make it 5 crazy tours. 2023, 2025, 2027, 2029, 2031. And then the second little voice in my head came and said, "Oh, you're going to chicken out. You're not going to do that." And the first voice said, "Well, just watch me." and so and then the first voice said, let's start by the first one. But then after, when I returned from Alaska, a couple months later, that seed that I had planted grew up, and I said, well, there might be a second one. And the second one's coming up at the end of May. I'm leaving for my second crazy tour. Another speaking engagement tour. Will be touring the Maritimes on my bicycle. So leaving from Granby in the other directions. So the 4 provinces of the Maritimes. And I'm going to be coming back the Northern Way as well, which is the Labrador Way, the Labrador Highway. So it's going to be an exciting adventure too. So I'm in the process right now of connecting with all organizations that could have me as a speaker as I'm passing by their town, the same way I met you, Bill, and everyone there. So leaving at the end of May, returning at the end of October. It's going to be a 5 months tour and 5,000 kilometers. So I'm in a kind of a trap right now, thinking that it might be easy, because it's only 5,000 kilometers compared to 12,000 when I did in 2023. So yeah. So and then I got 3 more coming up. The third one going to Europe, actually.
Oh, nice. Well, you can't bike across the ocean, though.
Well, 2027 it would be a walking crazy tour, and I would leave from my place walking to New York, not taking the plane. I will take a boat to England, and it will be my pilgrimage of Compostela that I'm dreaming of for a long time. And you were asking me, Ben, earlier, what challenge I would like to take. It would be to maybe doing the Appalachian Trail. That would be the one that I would enter.
Would you? Okay, because the Appalachians, that's in South America, isn't it?
No. It's on the eastern seaboard. You go all the way from, I think, is it Georgia, North Carolina, all the way up to the...
Oh, I'm thinking of different things.
Yeah.
To Maine, and there's an extension all the way to Quebec as well.
Yeah.
When you went to Alaska and you've got your bike and all your stuff, and you get to the border, what was that interaction like? Because I'm sure there must have been a couple of interesting looks that you got.
Oh, all the way. All the way. For 3 months in my life, can you imagine? For 3 months in my life, the answer to where are you going was Alaska. This is crazy. And all along the way, people were getting lots of reactions. I think the border going from British Columbia to Alaska border at that point there, northern BC, I think they get to see lots of special characters there. So they weren't that surprised there. But all along the way, people, and for 3 other months returning, I was answering the question, where did you come from? And the answer was Alaska. That's quite of an experience. I got goosebumps.
Thankfully, you didn't forget your passport, because that would have been that would have been bad.
Pierre, you're a unique person, and I was just reflecting back. I think the crazy tours, I guess en français it's fou, right? En fou. That it's aptly named. And again, I think on this Backroads Bill podcast, we've learned not only about the environment and environmental choices, we've learned about commitment, and we've learned about lifestyle. And we're really, really glad that you came onto the podcast, and we'll be sharing it with others. And we'll look forward to hearing back from you after the second crazy tour is over.
Well, I can't wait. I will be very happy to be with you again.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I don't think there's anything we missed or anything like that, but Pierre, was there anything that you wanted to add before we let you go?
Well, life is a challenge in itself, and our passage on this planet is really short, so you got to make what we think is best. I don't know. It was a great pleasure to be with you guys.
It was awesome having you on. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, merci.
Bienvenue.
Well, a big thank you to Pierre for jumping on. I couldn't really think of a good bike pun verb. Cycling on, jumping on. Anyways, good luck to him on his latest crazy tour. Again, that's happening in just a number of weeks out in the Maritimes. If you want to support Pierre and you happen to be out in the Maritimes, what he said was, again, just offer him a place to stay, allow him a place to speak on his engagement tour. Or if you're not going to be in that area, You can support him by purchasing his book, which is only available on his website. Again, the link will be in the description. So if you want to support Pierre, easily just buy his book. It's a fantastic read. I highly recommend it. And again, thank you so much, Pierre, for jumping on with us. Just an absolutely fantastic time to get a chance to talk to you. So if you enjoyed today's episodes, you can check out all of the other episodes. We have over 80 now of this podcast, which is insane, with some absolutely amazing guests. You can check all of that out on your favorite podcast player, over on the North Bay Echo YouTube channel if you prefer to watch your podcasts, or you can head on over to northbayecho.ca, where you can find a slew of other local podcasts for whatever you're into, whether it's politics, sports, local slice of life, etc. There's a great number of podcasts there that are both produced by Echo and by other local people, very talented people here in the area. So that wraps things up here. Please leave a like, a comment, a review. It helps us to continue to grow this podcast. Or if there's someone you want to see, if there's a certain type of guest or topic you want to do, please let us know. And we will see you again next time for another Backroads Adventure. Spring is here, and that means one thing. Baseball is back. At Source for Sports North Bay, we're proud to be part of every pitch, every catch, and every moment that brings our community together on the diamond. Whether it's outfitting little leaguers for their very first game, helping local teams suit up for the season, or simply sharing the love of the sport, we're here for it. We're more than just a sports store. We're neighbors, coaches, teammates, and fans. And we're proud to support the leagues, schools, and families who make North Bay's baseball scene so special. Wherever your sports journey takes you, make sure you visit Source for Sports North Bay at 1321 Fisher Street so we can help you along your way.